Hey everybody, I hope everybody's doing good. I'm sorry it's taken me a little bit longer to get another video out. I was on the road for about a little over 5 months, so I've been kind of busy since I've been home, but I wanted to get this video out. I decided to do one about Esau because I know for myself, for the longest time, I just thought I was German. I was like, well, that's my nationality, that's what I am, and I never thought I had any kind of ties to anybody in the Bible. And I think a lot of people do that same thing today. So, like I said, I just wanted to get this out here. I want to start back in Genesis, chapter 7 and 8 with the flood. Now, we all know it was Noah and his sons Ham, Shem, and Japheth, and their wives that survived the flood. Okay, so it was those 8 people that came out and repopulated the earth. So everybody that's on the earth today came from those 3 sons. Now, it's important to know who we are according to the Bible because this is not just a basic genealogy trace, but it's actually a life and death situation. Now, in the beginning of Genesis chapter 9, where the Most High told them to multiply, fill the earth, and when you look at Genesis chapter 10, is where you start seeing the generations being listed. Now, it's noteworthy because all the way from Genesis chapter 10 through 24, all these generations are being listed, but nobody is being described as far as how they look. But when you get to Esau being born in Genesis chapter 25 and verse 25, it said that he was red and hairy. So with him being described, he obviously had to look different than everybody else at that time. Basically what I want to do first, though, is just go ahead and start at the beginning. That's usually the best place to start. So we'll go to Genesis 25, and we'll start in verse 21. And it says, "And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived." So Rebekah was not able to get pregnant. So Isaac went and talked to the Lord, and the Lord listened to him, and she was able to conceive. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, "If it be so, why am I thus?" And she went to inquire of the Lord. So the children were fighting each other in the womb. And she wanted to know, what's going on? What's the deal? So she went to talk to the Most High. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Now, when you think of twins, especially with identical twins, they look alike, they talk alike, they act alike, they're practically the same person. But the Most High was telling her there's 2 different types of people, okay, in your womb. And basically, he gave a prophecy here. He said that the elder would serve the younger. Now, back in those times, the oldest one was the one to get the birthright and the blessing. So, obviously, something was going to have to happen to make these roles be reversed. Verse 24 says, "And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau." So there's the first distinguishing mark of Esau. Okay, he was red and hairy. "After that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them." Now there's 2 things I want to point out. First of all, notice how Jacob was not described. Did not describe what he looked like. So obviously he looked like everybody else. And that part there where it says how he took hold of Esau's heel, now this is noteworthy, and I'll get into it a little bit more, but I just want to touch on it for just a second. The first thing you need to do is go into the Apocrypha, okay? What this is a compilation of books that have actually been taken out of the Bible, okay? When you go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 6, look at verses 8 and 9. "And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth." Now, like I said, I'm going to touch on that a little bit more, but I just wanted to go ahead and point that out because that is a significant event. Verse 27 says, "And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field. Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents." Okay, so here we have the second identifying mark of Esau, was that he would be a cunning hunter, a man of the field. Now, when you look at people that hunt today, okay, it is a so-called white race. And there was a study that was done, and I believe it's AfricaResource.com. It said that the percentage of so-called African Americans, well, that's not the actual term for this, that hunt is only 1%. So that is a very, very small margin. Okay. Verse 28 says, "And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom." Now, this is where the events start turning, okay? For, like I said, this prophecy that the Most High foretold that the elder would serve the younger, this is where everything starts happening, all right? Now, what you have to understand, this is also another identifying mark of Esau, okay? Jacob was making this pottage or this stew, and it was red, so the meat wasn't done. Now, when you look at the so-called white race, when it comes to their steaks and their hamburgers and things, they like them rare, okay? They have a saying, you know, I want it mooing when it hits the plate. So basically, they don't even hardly want it cooked. And I have actually known people that have eaten raw hamburger, raw bacon, and they were all so-called white people. So, like I said, this is another identifying mark. And when it says his name was changed to Edom, Edom means red. 31 says, "And Jacob said, Sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, Behold, I am at the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me this day. And he sware unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright." Okay, now, you have a lot of people say, oh, Jacob deceived him, you know, he stole his birthright. No, he didn't. It says right there that he sold his birthright unto Jacob. That said at the end that he despised it. If he despised it, that means he hated it. Okay? But we also have the fourth identifying mark of Esau. Okay? He was so impatient that he did not even want to wait for that stew to be done. Okay? He could have waited maybe another 10 minutes. It would have been completely cooked. Everything would have been fine, but he wanted it right now. And like I've told you before, I drive a truck. Okay? And I'm going to say 99.999% of the people that cut me off and honk at me and flip me off because I'm going slow or I'm in their way or whatever, they're the so-called white race. They'll cut me off just to exit or cut me off just to turn. I need over and they won't let me over. They will literally put their lives at risk because they are so impatient. And so like I said, that's the fourth identifying mark. So, here so far we have 4 distinguishing marks of Esau, and these distinguishing marks would also be a sign of who his descendants would be. Now, when we go to Genesis chapter 27 and we start in the first verse, we're going to see how Jacob got the blessing. Verse 1 says, "And it came to pass that when Isaac was old, and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau his eldest son, and said unto him, My son. And he said unto him, Behold, here am I. And he said, Behold now, I am old, I know not the day of my death. Now therefore take, I pray thee, thy weapons, thy quiver and thy bow, and go out to the field, and take me some venison, and make me savory meat, such as I love, and bring it to me, that I may eat, that my soul may bless thee before I die." Okay, so here, Isaac wanted Esau to go out and get the venison and cook it up the way he liked it, because he was going to give him his blessing. And Rebekah heard when Isaac spake to Esau his son. And Esau went to the field to hunt for venison, and to bring it. And Rebekah spake unto Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I heard thy father speak unto Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me venison, and make me savory meat, that I may eat, and bless thee before the Lord before my death. Okay, so Rebekah overheard everything that happened, alright? Verse 8 says, Now therefore, my son, obey my voice, according to that which I command thee. Go now to the flock, and fetch me from thence 2 good kids of the goats, and I will make them savory meat for thy father, such as he loveth. And thou shalt bring it to thy father, that he may eat, and that he may bless thee before his death. So she wanted Jacob to go out and get 2 goats. She was going to cook it up the way he liked it, so he could take it to him, so that Jacob could get the blessing. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Okay? Now, when it comes to being hairy, alright, it's just a trait of the so-called white race. I have a couple of pictures here. Okay? You can see. Alright? These guys are very hairy. Okay? Now this one I had to blot out because, well, not only would it have violated YouTube policy, but believe me, I did y'all a favor. So you see a hairy man, and then you see a smooth man. Okay? Verse 12 says, My father peradventure will feel me, and I shall seem to him as a deceiver, and I shall bring a curse upon me, and not a blessing. So he was like, he's going to be able to tell the difference, okay? He's gonna feel me, I'm smooth, he's hairy, he's gonna know that I'm not Esau. And his mother said unto him, Upon me be thy curse, my son, only obey my voice, and go fetch me them. And he went and fetched and brought them to his mother. And his mother made savory meat, such as his father loved. And Rebekah took goodly raiment of her eldest son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them upon Jacob her younger son. So here she's cooked up this food just the way he likes it. Now she's taken Esau's clothes and put them on Jacob. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats upon his hands and upon the smooth of his neck. So now she's taken the hair from the goats, put it on his neck and on his hands. Okay? And she gave the savory meat and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. And he came unto his father and said, My father. And he said, Here am I. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said unto his father, I am Esau thy firstborn. I have done according as thou badest me. Arise, I pray thee, sit and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said unto his son, How is it that thou hast found it so quickly, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God brought it to me. So Jacob says, All right, I got this just how you wanted. I'm Esau, And Isaac's like, How did you get this so fast? And he said, Because the Lord provided it. And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near, I pray thee, that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he discerned him not, because his hands were hairy as his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. Alright, so he had, like I said, he had that skin from the goat on his neck and on his hands. So when Isaac felt him, he's like, well, you sound like Jacob, but you feel like Esau. And he didn't know. He didn't know the difference. And he said, Art thou my very son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he brought it near to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And his father Isaac said unto him, Come near now, and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled the smell of his raiment, and blessed him, and said, See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field, which the Lord hath blessed. So when Jacob got near to him, he had on Esau's clothing, so Isaac smelled him, and he smelled like Esau, a man of the field. Now, verse 28 says, Therefore God give thee of the dew of heaven and the fatness of the earth, and plenty of corn and wine. Let people serve thee, and nations bow down to thee. Be Lord over thy brethren, and let thy mother's sons bow down to thee. Cursed be everyone that curseth thee, and blessed be he that blesseth thee. Now, I want to point out there in verse 28, where Jacob's getting the blessing, he said, the dew of heaven first, then the fatness of the earth. Now, I'm going to get into that a little bit more later, but I just wanted to point that out. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. So no more than all of this is done, and Jacob gets the blessing. Here comes Esau. And he also had made savory meat, and brought it unto his father, and said unto his father, Let my father arise, and eat of his son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said unto him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn Esau. And Isaac trembled very exceedingly, and said, Who? Where is he that hath taken venison, and brought it me? And I have eaten of all before thou camest, and have blessed him. And he shall be blessed. So Isaac's like, who are you, and who is that was just here? I ate of his venison, and I gave him the blessing. And when it says, and he shall be blessed, that's letting you know right there. There's no saying, oops, I made a mistake, I take it back. It was already done. He given him the blessing, that was that, and he shall be blessed. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with a great and exceeding bitter cry, and said unto his father, Bless me, even me also, O my father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and has taken away thy blessing. So here, Isaac has figured out what's happened. He said, your brother came in with subtlety, and has taken away your blessing. Then in verse 36 it says, And he said, Is not he rightly named Jacob? For he hath supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not reserved a blessing for me? So he's saying, well, he's rightly named Jacob, Jacob means to supplant. And when you supplant, you take the place of, or move in position of. And Isaac answered and said unto Esau, Behold, I have made him thy lord, and all his brethren have I given to him for servants. And with corn and wine have I sustained him. And what shall I do now unto thee, my son? So Esau's like, well, haven't you saved a blessing for me too? And he says, look, I've already, given him this blessing. I've made him thy lord, brethren for servants. What do you want me to do for you? And Esau said unto his father, Hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So at this point, Esau's starting to cry over this. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. Okay, now, I pointed that out earlier when Jacob got the blessing. First it said dew of heaven, then the fatness of the earth. But now when Esau's getting his blessing, it says fatness of the earth first, then the dew of heaven. And that's why I had pointed that out in the Apocrypha, because it said that Esau would be the end of the world, and Jacob would be the beginning of that to follow. Okay? So this world that we are in right now is Esau's blessing. He is getting the fatness of the earth, or all the riches, all the best things. He's getting all that right now. Jacob is to get his blessing in the next world that's coming. Verse 40 says, And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off his neck. So here we have the 5th identifying mark of Esau. Okay? It said that he would live by the sword. So everywhere that Esau went, bloodshed followed. Now, he would conquer this earth by the sword. Now, when you take an honest look, and I stress the word honest, look at this world that we live in, who controls it? It's the so-called white man. Even if you go somewhere like South Africa and they might have a so-called black man as the president. He's not really in charge. Okay? There is a so-called white man behind him controlling him. And it's the same with President Obama. He's not really in charge, but that's a totally another discussion. Now, when it says dominion, that he would have dominion, that means control or power. So Isaac told Esau that at some point he would have control over this earth, and that he would break the yoke of his brother from off his neck or come out from under him. Now, this is what you have to know. At some point in history, okay, the so-called black race has been in charge. Europe, Egypt, all these other countries, okay? I have a book here. It's entitled Nature Knows No Color Lines. And I'm just going to point out a few pictures in here, okay? And you can see of the so-called black race. This is in Egypt, old Egypt, okay? Like I said, I have just a few of them. I don't have time to go through all of them. But I just wanted to point these out to let you know that at some point in history, the so-called black race has been in charge, okay? But now when you look at places like Europe, Rome, Greece, all these different places, here's some from ancient Rome, okay? All these different places, all you see now is a so-called white man. So at some point, the so-called white man has come in and conquered by the sword, taken over, okay? Now, it's really hard to find out exactly when this stuff all happened because they've tried to cover it up, okay? They don't want people to know what they've done. And that's exactly the same thing that they've done here in what is now called the United States. They came in, they conquered by the sword. Now, I want to read a scripture. It's in Job, chapter 9. And before I read this, let me say that during the Renaissance period, okay, that's when Michelangelo and Da Vinci came in, and they repainted everybody as white. Now, when you read Job chapter 9 and verse 24, losing my head covering, says, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he?" Okay? And that's exactly what happened in the Renaissance period. They painted everybody white. They covered up the faces of the judges. Okay? Now, this world that we live in is Esau's world. And it says that the earth has been given into the hand of the wicked. Now, to find another identifying mark of Esau, I want to go to Deuteronomy chapter 28. And I actually brought this out in my video about the curses that are upon the Israelites. And 28:49 says, "The Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth." Okay? Now I want to flip over to Obadiah and read verse 4. "Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord." Okay, so here's the next identifying mark of Esau, the eagle. Okay? And when you look at all of these countries that the so-called white man has invaded and took over, they have always set up a symbol or an emblem for that country. Now, I have some pictures of these countries' emblems, okay? Obviously, I don't have them all, but just a few of them. There's Russia and Nigeria, okay? The U.S. and Serbia. Austria and Egypt. Okay. There's Germany, and then the Holy Roman Empire of Imperial Germany. Then Mexico and Poland. Now, as you can see on all of those, the eagle has been used as that symbol. And it says in Obadiah 4, "Thou exalt thyself as the eagle." Now, the eagle is a very proud, majestic bird. Okay? So there's another identifying mark of Esau, pride. And verse 3 brings that out. It says, the pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Now when you look at the so-called white race, they're very proud. They're proud of their U.S. flag. They're proud of living in the United States. They say, this is my country and I'll die for it, I'll kill for it, whatever. Not even taking into consideration how they got this land, which is another topic. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is how the so-called white race became white. Now, when you think of leprosy today, you think of a skin disease with your body parts falling off. But according to Ahia, that's not what it is. It is the skin turning white. And the first instance of this was in Exodus 4, verse 6. Ahia was talking to Moses, and he was trying to prove to him that he would be with him when he used him to deliver his people from Egypt. He had him stick his hand in his bosom. When he pulled it out, it was leprous white. Okay? Then in Numbers chapter 12, where Miriam and Aaron were murmuring against Moses for marrying an Ethiopian, verse 10 shows how Miriam was turned leprous and that she was white. So in both of these cases, the skin turning white was considered leprosy. Now, when you go to Genesis chapter 9, and verses 19 through 25, this is where Ham saw the nakedness of his father Noah, okay? And in verse 25 is where the curse was put on Canaan, his son. It says, and he said, cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Now, some religions want to try to say that the curse was put on Ham, like the Mormons. They try to say, oh, Ham, he was a white man, the curse was put on him, he turned black. But that's not true, because the curse was put on his son Canaan, not on him. And I've pointed this out before, but I'm just going to touch on it again. In the Bible dictionary under Ham, it brings out that he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. So obviously Ham was a black man in order to become the progenitor of those races. Now, all it says there is that Canaan would be cursed. Now, if you want to find out what the curse was, go to Leviticus chapter 14. Oh, my pages are sticking together. And verse 34. When ye be come into the land of Canaan, which I give to you for a possession, and I put the plague of leprosy in a house of the land of your possession. Okay, now, a house, it's not talking like literally a house that we live in. Okay, he had put the curse on that land, and he put the curse of leprosy. And as we've seen so far, that leprosy is the skin turning white. Now, in Genesis chapter 28, Isaac had told Jacob not to take a wife from the land of Canaan. Okay? And verses 6 through 8 show how Esau overheard him telling him that. Okay? So Esau knew that the Canaanites were displeasing to his father. And even if you go back to Genesis 24, okay, Abraham had told Isaac not to take a wife from the land of Canaan. But when you look at Genesis chapter 36, the first two verses show right there that Esau paid no attention to that, and he took wives from the land of Canaan. Now, when you put Esau, who is red and hairy, together with these people who have been cursed with leprosy or cursed to be white, that's how you get the so-called white race today. Okay? And because these people, when it says leprosy, white as snow, obviously, no, we're not white as snow, okay? But we're like different shades of red. Like if you were to hit me or pinch me or anything like that, my skin's going to turn red, okay? And this is how we got the so-called white race today. Even in 2 Kings chapter 5, this is where it speaks of Naaman. Naaman had leprosy, but he was cured. Okay? So when you go down to verses 25 through 27, this is where Gehazi got that leprosy of Naaman. Okay? He was cursed with this. Verse 27 says, "The leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and unto thy seed forever. And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow." Okay? So here was Gehazi. He got cursed with this leprosy. He became white as snow. But not only that, the leprosy or the whiteness was going to be on his descendants forever. Now, when you look in Leviticus chapter 13, if someone had leprosy, they were to be brought in before the priest. Okay? And in verses 12 and 13, let's just read that. "And if the leprosy break out broad in the skin, and the leprosy cover all the skin of him that hath the plague, from his head even to his foot, wheresoever the priest looketh, then the priest shall consider, and behold, if the leprosy have covered all his flesh, he shall pronounce him clean, that hath the plague. It is all turned white, he is clean." So if someone had leprosy all the way from the top of their head down to their feet, covering their whole body, they were considered clean. So when it comes to us so-called white people, we are considered to have a clean leprosy. Now, I just want to, this is a little side note. When it comes to Christ, this is basically just another thing to point out that he can't be white, because the Most High considers white skin a curse of leprosy, and he would not allow his son to have that curse upon him. Now, when you look at all of the distinguishing marks, put everything together, okay? Esau being red and hairy, being a hunter, proud, impatient, put all of this together, you have no choice but to come up with the fact that all of this describes the so-called white race to a T. And I'm not trying to make this a race issue, okay? I really am not. It's just the truth, okay? And it's finding out who we are according to the Most High. Because Ahiah is getting ready to set up the second kingdom, or Jacob's blessing, okay? So it's just imperative that we know who we are and where we stand with him. So I hope y'all have enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.